This is Raising Mama, a hilariously honest podcast dedicated to unveiling the hidden realities of motherhood.
Our goal is to arm you with the information and tools you need to be your most confident and empowered self.
This podcast is packed with unfiltered testimonies, diverse perspectives, and expert opinions, along with a good dose of laughter and tears.
Leading you on this journey is my best friend, Megan Stander, who is a CEO, passionate maternal health advocate, and mom of 2 daughters.
Alongside me is my best friend, Chelsea Ledson, who is a mother, wife, and registered nurse with her master's specializing in women's health. Let's try to raise the next generation
by raising up mamas
and maybe raising a little hell. Today on our show, we have Heidi Lovens, who is a certified infant and toddler sleep coach, specializing in personalized sleep solutions. Through her platform, Everyday Lovens, she offers one-on-one virtual coaching designed to support the emotional well-being of both parents and children. Heidi guides families in navigating sleep challenges, empowering them for a healthier, happier journey into parenthood. You can visit her website at www.everydaylovens.com. Hi, Heidi. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So good to have you on, especially so good to see you because I worked with you for a while.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. So we're going to get right into the questions. And for someone that doesn't know what a sleep coach is, what do you do?
So I work with families with children of all ages. So that might be when a parent is pregnant and they're getting ready to prepare for baby and they're worried about sleep or lack of sleep, all the way up to families with children who are 6 years of age. So every family is a little bit different in what they're looking for, what their goals are. For one family, it might just mean, setting a routine or a schedule to follow. For other families, it might mean getting their 6-year-old out of their bed. They're tired of co-sleeping. It's not working for them. So my job is really to meet the families where they're at and help them with their individual goals. So that might be creating a sleep plan for them from the beginning. So creating a schedule, how long babies should be napping during the day, what they should be doing for nighttime sleep. So creating a method that works for them and feels comfortable for them to use. And it's a lot of moral support, helping a family like you're doing great, encouraging them, taking accountability too, right? So a family, and you know this, Megan, like knowing, okay, I'm going to follow through this method tonight because I have to check in with Heidi in the morning and tell her everything I did.
Yes.
And I don't want to tell her that I brought my baby into bed at 3 a.m. I want to tell her we did it until 7 o'clock in the morning. We all slept, right? And then, just checking in with parents, letting them feel like there's somebody there helping them and that they're not alone in this journey. I think that's something really big is a lot of parents will talk to me even during a consultation call and say, oh my gosh, this is normal. Really? You went through this also. And just being able to talk about that when so many of these things are new for parents, or this is their 3rd child and they didn't go through this. They didn't experience this with their other 2 children. And now they're going through it now with 1 baby or the 3rd baby. So just meeting parents where they're at and helping them with their unique goals to make sure that they are all getting the sleep that they need.
Yeah. How did you get into this?
So I was a career nanny. I went to school, or I started going to school to be a teacher, and school just wasn't for me. And so I was a nanny for many years, working with different families, different dynamics, and seeing how important sleep was for every family I worked with, seeing that they were asking me to read books about sleep, that they were asking me to create schedules or follow schedules that they were already following. And then as my friends started having kids, they were all coming to me asking me sleep questions, right? And at that time, my husband and I had just gotten married and we were talking about starting a family. And I was thinking, like, I don't want to be in other people's homes taking care of their kids, taking care of their families. I want to be able to be at home with my family. And one of my friends said to me, how come you're not doing this as a career, right? Like, you should be doing this. I'm like, there's no such thing. And she was like, no, there is. It's called a sleep coach. And I went online. I signed up that day for my first course. And I literally started like the next day in that course. And I never looked back. And I felt like, how did I not know that this was my passion, sleep and helping other families? And it just kind of snowballed from there.
I have a quick question. So, what percentage of people do you think like know that sleep coaches exist?
Oh my
I
gosh,
feel like I talk to people about you all the time because you were so crucial to me. Like I would have I would not have been okay. And like people are like, "What? What's a sleep coach?"
yeah, I have no idea what that number is, but I feel like most of the time when I tell people what I do, they're like, "That's a job?" People come to you, they can't get their kid to sleep, or people are excited, like, "Oh, wow, yeah, I've heard of sleep coaches, but I've never met them." I feel like from the time I started in 2015 until now, there's definitely more sleep coaches out there.
Mm.
People see it on the internet, you know,
Yeah.
on Instagram, things like that. So I think a lot of more people know about it, but I think it's still, especially the older generations, right? Like
Right.
my mom, I love her and she supports me so much, but she's like when she's around me and I'm on a sleep call, she says, "I can't believe people pay you to tell them how to get their baby to sleep." I'm like, "Thanks, mom."
You're
but
like so supportive.
yeah, for other
But
generations, they just don't understand it, right? But I
yeah.
also think that that's a sign of the times of
Mhm.
people are willing to hire someone to come in their home and help them to declutter or to help them exercise at the gym or life
Right.
coaches, career coaches, right? Like I'm all about finding people who specialize in something that I need help with to help me to learn how to do it better. And I just think that's one of the things about sleep coaching too. Yeah.
I have a
Question.
question. So, like, how, I mean, this is what I would want to know. Like, how much does it cost? Because I feel like a lot of people are like, heck yeah, I want help, like, clearing out my closet. Heck yeah, I want help doing stuff. But it's like, is it $1 billion? Like, I don't know. I mean, you don't have to say exactly how
Yes.
much you pay per
Yes, I
hour, but like,
charge
what?
$1 bazillion per client.
Like, is it
Billionaire over
reasonable,
here.
or is this for like the Beverly Hills mom?
Yeah, I think, I try to make it as reasonable as possible. But at the end of the day, I am giving one-on-one support to a family. I'm answering their text messages when they text me throughout the day. I'm creating this plan that's personalized for them. I'm trying to be as responsive as possible. And different sleep coaches work different ways. Some sleep coaches only offer email support, right? Or they only say we call you every third day. But but me specifically, what I want to offer parents is I want them to feel like they're the only person that I'm working with. I want them to feel like I have no life and I'm just sitting there at my phone ready to respond. And sometimes it gets to be a little bit much if we're on vacation or when my son's around or if my husband's trying to talk to me. I'm like, wait a second, I want to talk to this client. But I also think that even my son at 6 years old understands that I'm helping other people and that this is my passion to help people who are tired and who are frustrated and who just want somebody to hold their hand, right? So
And
the
I can back you up on this. Like I was amazed, and that was one of the most helpful parts of it was that I could text you at like any point, and maybe I shouldn't over advertise this, but like it
I
was
have
so
at 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. is my response hours. I do not respond at 2 o'clock in the morning.
yeah.
But I think because I offer that level of response and support, I do charge a little bit more than other sleep consultants. If you work with me for 10 days, it's $825. So that includes the hour-long phone call, reviewing your plan, your custom plan, the one-on-one support through those 10 days. So, if you divide that by 10 days, it's not that much when you're looking at it. And then at the end of it, parents are like, I would have paid you anything you asked for. One dad told me, he's like, do you want me to buy you a new car? Yes, I do. I don't think you're serious, but yes, I do. But I think, sleep is, it's like going to the pharmacy and picking up a prescription. It's you're paying for your health with sleep. And I do have lower plans. I have 5-day packages, which is half that price, and then I have 30 and 60-minute phone support, which is much more affordable. That we're talking through maybe a family just needs help with creating, a method that they're going to use, or maybe they just need help with a schedule, or maybe their child's getting ready to transition from the crib to the toddler bed and they want support with how to do that. We talk through that on a phone call. I answer any questions, and then I send a follow-up email just with a summary of our call so that they have it all. You listen to it on a phone call and then you forget half of it, so that way they can look back and have all the information there. So I do try to make it more affordable on different levels. And honestly, if a family came to me and was in need and said, we're exhausted, I'm not sleeping, this is affecting me emotionally, physically, can you help me? I would help every family I could for free if I could, right? It's not, that's not why I'm doing it. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you provide like tremendous, tremendous value. And I fully realized that afterwards because I went from like, I can't do this to like, holy crap, total 180. And it not only set me up for just that one phase, but like everything that I learned, I applied it to like the next stage. And I think we had like a couple follow-ups.
yeah, and definitely at the end of the 10 days or 5 days working together, we have that ending call, right? Where we talk about, do you have questions about the future, right? What are you nervous about? Do you feel prepared? And then in that sleep plan too, I also include what your child's schedule will be at that next stage, right? So I think when I worked with you, your baby was like 5 or 6 months, if I remember correctly. Like she was little. And so
Yeah.
she was on a different sleep schedule than she was going to be 3 or 6 months from there. So I include that in the plan. And my goal isn't to have you come back to me and need me again. Like my
Mm.
goal for you is that you feel like you've learned everything you possibly can and you can use it again and again and again at every stage for sleep regressions, when your child's sick, for next babies, future babies, if you have more, right? That not every method that you use is going to be the same from one child to the next, but you can use that
Yeah.
foundation and create that healthy foundation again and
Yeah.
again.
So I want to move on a little. So on your website, you mentioned that sleep is a cornerstone of emotional well-being for both parents and children. I mentioned this. So can you elaborate a little bit on the direct impact that better sleep has on like a mom's postpartum experience?
Yeah,
And like by postpartum, I don't mean like for 6 weeks or like even first year. It's just kind of like that.
forever.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, for postpartum, I feel like is forever because
Yeah.
we're always going through different stages, and it's not even just recovery of a mom who's given birth, but it's during that phase of maybe a foster parent or adoptive parent bringing a new child home and learning what they need and creating that bond and that attachment with their child. So sleep is really essential. It's essential for everyone. It's essential for humans, for animals, and it's necessary for development and well-being. So think of, a night where you've had bad sleep, and I struggle with anxiety. If I have bad sleep and I wake up the next morning, I'm in a terrible mood, my heart's racing, I feel irritable. I might take it out on my spouse, I may take it out on my child or my dog, or just feel like everything is bothering me, right? But yeah, you too. But when you have a good night's sleep, we're able to face those things with a whole different set of eyes, right? Something that would bother me after a poor night of sleep doesn't even faze me the next day. So sleep directly impacts our mood, our ability to fight off sickness, our ability to have better conversations and communicate better with our spouses, our children, our neighbors, everybody. It also, having poor sleep directly is attributed to depression,
Mm.
illness,
Yeah.
poor decision making. So are we not eating as healthy? Are we making poor decisions in the kitchen? Are we making poor decisions, just in life because of that? And just can bring up like so many more struggles if we have a poor night of sleep. And that's as an adult, right? Where we can control ourselves more than our child who has a poor night of sleep, tantrums, irritability, not listening, not behaving well in school, things
Mm.
like that. I think I think Megan, you probably saw on my Instagram stories this year, my son was diagnosed with sleep apnea, and
Yeah, I saw that.
he was not sleeping for 9 months. It was awful. At first, it started just like one little wake up here and there. And then it was like 10, 12 times a night, going to the bathroom, having tantrums in the middle of the night because he couldn't self regulate himself. Me feeling like I was having tantrums in the middle of the night because I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And this is me coming from like telling people how to sleep better, telling people how to look for sleep disorders, things like that. We knew that he had it, and we are working on what we were going to do to help him. But really it was difficult for me. I gained weight. I was irritable. I cut back on my clients because I just didn't feel like I had the bandwidth to help people anymore. And I was
Right.
just frustrated all the time. And so I saw that firsthand, how much it affected us. I felt like my happy, easygoing little boy just turned into this angry little monster, right? For lack of like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was horrible. I dreaded the moment that he woke up in the morning because he was just going to be a little jerk. He didn't want to eat breakfast. He kind of stalled out on his growth. Like he was getting sick all the time, so I wasn't
Hmm.
able to work because he was homesick with me, and it was just this terrible cycle. And it really like I feel like I forgot how important sleep was, even though I talk about it all the time. It's all I talk
Right.
about. But I
But
didn't
he's
realize.
probably usually getting really good sleep outside of this
Mhm.
because you're so well trained and you know so much.
Right. And like it just something that we definitely we prioritize sleep in this house, right? I
Yeah.
do, at least. I don't know that my son
You should, hopefully.
my husband does because he doesn't have a choice. Um, but no, and so to have sleep and go from, even the newborn stage was easier. It was so much easier for me than this stage of him having sleep apnea and not getting sleep, because I wouldn't just get back to sleep. I was laying there upset that I had raised my voice at him in the middle of the night, or that I was like mad that he woke up again, or that now I'm just laying there worried, like, well, what are we going to do? Like, I need to make another doctor's appointment for him. I hope he doesn't get sick again so we don't have to reschedule his surgery, right? Like,
Yeah.
I just like so many months of not sleeping that, I feel like it's helping me even more now with my sleep clients because I can relate to them even more. I can see where they're at when they're calling me. Like I really, really get it.
Yeah.
But it's just so scary how, even one night of bad sleep affects us for a day. But when you have that layered
Yeah.
on top of each other night after night and month after month,
Mhm.
it's just so difficult to function.
So how'd you do it? How did you, as the sleep coach, get past your kid with sleep apnea? What was like the tricks and tools that worked for you?
I drank a lot of wine to get through those witching hours, drank a lot of coffee. Um, I
He got to get medically treated, right?
Yeah, he did. So we had several, a second opinion, a third opinion. I wasn't sold on surgery, and I didn't know that that was the right track to go. And then after, multiple professionals were telling me, no, like this is going to be the best option for you. Like I said, there was several months where we had him scheduled for surgery. So that looked like his tonsils and his adenoids being removed, but he kept getting sick. So we kept having to reschedule them. So I kept him home for 2 weeks from school so he wouldn't get sick. And then we had the surgery. And, I'm not an advocate for surgery or medicine or anything, right? Like everybody has to choose their own path. But I will say the night he had surgery, he started sleeping through the night again.
Oh,
And
Whoa.
and it was crazy. We were supposed to wake him up I can't remember, I think it was every 3 to 4 hours to give him medicine. So I had my alarm set round the clock, and we couldn't even wake him up that first night. He was just so tired. And the next day he woke up, and even though he was recovering from a pretty major surgery for a little kid, like he was back. Like I saw like his face, like he was happier, he slept better, he felt better. He just got, I mean, kids are so amazing. He got through it. And I was really happy that ultimately we went through with the surgery. Um, I mean, I leaned on my husband a lot. Um, and, and I think I kind of am that person, in retrospect, I realize that I shut down and I stopped hanging out with friends. I stopped
mm,
going out to events. I stopped a lot of social media. I just kind of got
hunkered
really
down.
internal and tried to bust through it as a family, I'm not a person who can ask for help. And so that was really humbling for me to be able to, when my mom came over and she asked what she could do, I was like, yes, please help me with laundry. Like I have piles for days, and being able to ask her for help and accept that help was huge for me.
Yeah.
And also with my husband, like he never got up in the middle of the night really with our son because I always breastfed. So it was like that, it was all on me, right? Which is what I wanted and which was fine and it worked. And I never felt like I struggled, that first year postpartum because we always got back to bed really easily. And I think because I prioritized sleep and I got so much sleep, but during this phase, I had to ask him for help. I had to be like, you got to get up with him this time. I can't do it. And there were a lot of nights where he would just go and sleep in my son's bed with him so that I could get the sleep I needed. And it was just amazing for me to be able to have that. And I know a lot of
Yeah.
people don't have that or aren't able to ask for it or their partner can't give them that. So I do know how lucky I am that I did have that and that my family stepped up to help us too. I think honestly that's what got us through it.
Okay. So I know that uh, a big thing for you is like respecting every family's values and needs and like philosophies to an extent, because I know you do a lot of like educating as well, but like can you share a little bit more about how that manifests in your work and um the kinds of like differences between families and what they need, and then um
Yeah.
also if
Yeah.
there's like any boundaries that you have with that.
Yeah. So boundaries as far as um safe sleep recommendations, right? Because
Mhm.
I'm a business owner, because I'm coaching someone, I can't ever tell them, yeah, absolutely, bring your newborn home and co-sleep with them, put a blanket on them, let them sleep with a hat on,
Mhm.
right? Like I can't tell them things, nor do I want to, that aren't safe for their baby and their sleep environment. There are a lot of families that do co-sleep, whether that's for ease because it's working for them, because they're tired, culturally, space wise, right? There's so many reasons behind it. So one of my first questions that I will ask a family is what's working for you and what's not, right?
Mm.
Because if a family is doing something that falls within this, the safe sleep, if it's working for them, there's really not a reason to change it, right? Like I'm not here to say, no, you're not doing it right. I'm here to say what's not working for you and how can we change that. So
Mm.
if it's an older child and they're co-sleeping for them, it's working, but like maybe mom's trying to stop breastfeeding and the toddler is nursing all night long, I might say, if it's working for you to co-sleep and you're getting back to sleep and you're getting the sleep you need, then there's no reason to stop it. But probably because you reached out to me, it's not working. And so how do you feel about changing it, right? How do you feel about wearing a sweatshirt to bed so your baby can't access you? How do you feel about you not sleeping in the bed for a few nights and your partner being in bed with him? How do you feel about putting your child in the other room, right? And we really talk through what the options are. I don't want a parent to feel like they have to do it a way that they don't feel comfortable. I think it's really important that I create a plan that a parent feels confident with and comfortable with from night one so that they can follow through for the nights to come. If
Right.
they're struggling on night one with following a schedule and a method that doesn't feel right for them, like
Mhm.
deep down as a parent, they're not going to be able to follow through with it for 3 or 5 nights or like when things get hard, because that's just not reasonable, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
making sure that I'm offering something that a parent feels comfortable with. And for one parent, letting their child cry for 3 minutes before going in and checking and consoling them feels way too long, right? They've never let their baby cry ever before. They've always run to them, they've co-slept. So 3 minutes can feel super drastic, even though it's called the 3 minute gentle method, right? Like it's gentle. It's supportive. You're not leaving your baby for long periods of time. But for some parents, that's not gentle, right? So saying, okay, how do you feel about 1 minute? Can we reduce it and go in every 1 minute? And then on night two, they're like, oh, 1 minute's nothing. I feel like I'm not giving them enough time and I'm going in there too soon. I'm revving them up.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think you're right. Let's try 2 minutes tonight. And really, starting somewhere and making baby steps, I feel like is more important than just jumping into it and following something that you don't feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
Mm.
I thought it like I remember um like my first and second were so different with that. I remember we did because you helped me sleep train Kelly when she was about 5 months, and we did it super gently. And I don't think I started at 3 minutes. I think I worked my way up. Um, but I remember like feeling pretty comfortable in that. Like I trusted my instinct on it and it worked amazing. And for me, I needed the sleep really, really badly because I was working full time, and I didn't my partner couldn't he, they didn't have the capacity to be waking up at night, which was mutually agreed upon with us, similar to you and your husband.
Yeah.
Um so it was like for me it was like survival. And I remember one of the key things you asked me, because she had started waking up. This is my first one. She had started waking up again. Like we had trained her, and then she started waking up randomly at like 5:30 in the morning. And I was like, well, I've been, nursing her at like 5:30. And I remember you asked me like, is it working for you? And I was like, I don't know if I need to change it. And you were like, oh, well, is it working for you? And I was like, no, it's not working for me. So it was good, because I think that like in my head, I'm like, I want to be the mom that like is responsive, and like it is sweet. But then I was like, no, it's really not working for
And
me.
there's a difference between being responsive for a need and there's a difference between being responsive for a want, right? Did
Mhm.
she was a little bit older at this time when she started waking up again earlier in the
Yeah.
morning. Did she need to eat at that time? I'm guessing, I don't remember exactly the details, but like I'm guessing she didn't need to because she was eating really well throughout the day. You had fed her before bed. She already had been sleeping through the night for a
Yeah.
long time. She didn't need it, right? She wanted it. She wanted you to go in and feed her and hug her and snuggle her and get her back to sleep. So there's a difference between a parent feeling like, oh my gosh, we have to like run to our baby and save them, or to pausing, right? Like
Yeah.
even when my son falls down, like pausing, because sometimes if I run to him too soon, like the crocodile tears come and he's
Mhm.
so hurt, and then he gets more upset. And if I just pause and step back and watch him, like, you okay, bud? He's like, yeah, I'm good. And he gets up and, continues on. And so I think it's the same with sleep, is really taking a step back before jumping in too soon and interfering with them getting back to sleep on their own, or interfering with them laying in their crib and babbling and chatting for 20 minutes before you go in and start the day, right? And there are parents who, I just was speaking with a mom who I did sleep training with, and she was worried because her daughter woke up, same thing, really early one morning. And she was like, should I be worried about this? And I said, well, did it work? Is it working for you? Right. And she said, well, it actually did, because I was headed out of town. Had to catch a plane and head out of town for work. And so it meant I didn't have to pump, and I got to like hug her and squeeze her and feed her before I had to leave
Yeah.
that morning. And I was like, well, then there's your answer. Like, it worked for you. It was fine. If it's not going to continue to work for you moving forward, let's figure out, a plan and make sure she's getting the calories she needs during the day so that she doesn't need that feed, and figure it out. But if it was a one-time thing and it worked for you, then there's no reason to second guess that or to feel bad about it or question yourself for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost sounds like it sounds like you do a lot of, low key therapy kind of with the families.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot from parents, like, oh, you should do couples therapy. But honestly, I think when you're not getting the sleep you need, you don't see things the same way as a well-rested person does, right? You're not
Yeah.
as I can say this about myself. When I wasn't getting the sleep, I wasn't rational with my thinking, right? My anxiety, my fear, whatever else took over. And I wasn't thinking about things rationally. So once parents, husbands and wives and couples are getting the sleep they need, like we talked about, like they are able normally to, communicate better and get along better with other people and think more rationally. So
It also sounds like a common thread here is that maybe, and you can tell me because you've worked with so many families, like the moms aren't really thinking about themselves first. Like everything's in the paradigm of, is their
For
kid
sure.
getting the sleep? And it's
Yeah.
like,
Or is
well,
my
like you said,
partner
the
getting the
question,
sleep?
yeah,
Right?
like,
Like a lot of like moms specifically will say like, I'm on maternity leave, or I'm a stay-at-home mom, or I work from home and my husband has to wake up, or he travels a lot. He has a very demanding job. So I go to the baby quickly and respond to the baby quickly so that they can sleep. And they're prioritizing their spouse's sleep before their child's sleep or their own sleep. And
mhm,
and I think it's really about prioritizing everybody's sleep,
mhm.
right?
Well, that's why I love
Because
your question. Is this working? Because it's like
yeah,
not just for the baby, not just for your husband, like, is this
Is it
working?
working? Yeah. Because
yeah,
everyone has like their own, like to me, when it came to sleep, I guess, because I really resonate with like attachment parenting and all that stuff, but like everybody has their own like level of what they can take. And it's like
Mm,
at a certain point, you are going to reach a level where like, are you going to let yourself get suicidal because of this? That's really serious, of
mhm.
course, but like
yeah.
it happens, right?
And it
Like
happens without
how
you even knowing, right? Like
Right.
so I have who she's become a friend, but she was a sleep client of mine, and her son was on the older side. He was like 5, 6, was co-sleeping in bed, had never really fully slept through the night. And and I worked with them, and he's a great sleeper now to this day, right? But it wasn't until months later, after working together, she posted on social media like something about me, right? And it was, this person literally saved my life. I was suicidal. I
Mm.
I didn't realize that it was lack of sleep that had got me to this place. And I
Mhm.
saw her post and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe she didn't tell. I can't believe I didn't know even."
Yeah.
There were like no signs. And I went back and I read through our notes and I read through like the things that she had wrote me, and I had no idea that she was in such a dark place. And she didn't I don't think she fully knew it either until she was on the other side of it. And and she told me like, "You saved my life with sleep." And it was really powerful to me to know that I had helped her to come out of it, right? That I
Yeah.
helped her and her family
Yeah.
get the sleep that they needed, that I helped her son to sleep so that he still had this amazing mama with him. And and I just, I think she was prioritizing everybody else's sleep except hers. And it obviously wasn't working for her to co-sleep, right?
Yeah.
And they made that change, and we used a really gentle method. And and it was a method that I used with babies who are 10 months old or 6 years old. And so it was really amazing that she felt like she could still have that attachment with her son, right? Who she had co-slept with his entire life. And she could help him transition into his bed. And he felt really excited about it. And he was happy that he could do it. And now look at them today. They're thriving, right? And
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good, thank you for sharing that because, when you talk about sleep training and sleep coaching and stuff, like some of this is like pretty serious. I mean,
Mhm.
the fatigue and not only is everything worse when you're fatigued, like just everything, but like it really, really ties so strongly into mental health and like
Mhm.
it's just such a and which is why I think you provide so much value with what you do, and
So,
it's not just like, oh yeah, we're just like paying, so we can, it's like no, this is like life changing,
and I feel like sleep consultants and sleep coaching, sleep training, all those buzzwords, right? Can be triggering for a lot of people. A lot of people who are more
Yeah.
focused on attachment parenting, like how could you do this to your child? But take a step back and put yourself in somebody else's shoes who literally is like their mental health is taking a toll because of the lack of sleep, right?
Yeah.
And a parent needs to put their health first in order to take care of their family, right? If we're so
Mhm.
sleep deprived that, you know, we're thinking about steps to end our life, then we're no longer able to parent the way that we probably want to and the way that we should. So yeah, sleep training and sleep coaching in those instances is essential, right?
Yeah.
And it, I mean, it doesn't have to be that it's like sleep training is life or death, right? Like, I don't mean to say, I don't mean
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
it sound like so intense like that, but like, it's something that I feel like is essential for everybody. And it shouldn't be like a privilege that people get to sleep, right? Everybody should be able to have the help and the support that they need to get better sleep for themselves and for their family.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and like you said, you're the sleep coach and you still kind of had to go through all those changes yourself. It was still super hard struggle for you. So I think the average mama out there like takes solace, like the sleep's important. It's really challenging. And like, I think the best of us are going to maybe fall into our negative habits, whatever they may be, eating incorrectly, being snappy. It's like, that's why it's just so important to not override, which me and Megan definitely do.
For sure.
Yes. So Chelsea is visiting me right now, and she was telling me that Layla, because my next question was going to be about sleep regressions.
Ooh, there you go.
Um, and she was telling me that Layla's having a hard time for like the last week going down for a nap. So what advice do you have for moms like just like how to handle sleep regressions in general, and like what's the deal with them? I feel like it's kind of like a common word used, oh, she's going through a sleep regression, but like what's the deal with them, and like how do we handle them?
Yeah. And I feel like sleep regressions, like parents will come to me like, oh, I think my child must be having a sleep regression or they're teething, right? And it's something that because it's such like another buzzword that parents hear
Right.
about, that like it's the excuse that's used for everything.
Yeah.
So, there's the common ages of the sleep regressions. The first is at 4 months. And I really like to explain and simplify what a sleep regression is. It's a period of time when your child is learning to master a skill, when like developmentally, physically, they're working on something important. So, 4 months, their sleep actually changes as well. And you go from that like newborn stage of like that usually really like sleepy newborn stage to coming out of that into this like, oh, you're like a person now, right? You can see that
Yeah.
personality, who they are. They're coming out of that newborn stage. So really with the sleep regressions at any age is making sure that you're helping them developmentally where they're at, right? So
Mm.
that could be rolling, crawling, walking, talking, developing these new skills that can interfere with their nighttime sleep. So,
Oh.
developmentally, are they getting too much sleep during the day and that's now impacting their nighttime sleep? Are they not getting enough time out of the stroller, running around, climbing, practicing these skills? So they wake up in the middle of the night and now they're bouncing around in their crib trying to practice these skills. So really understanding that they shouldn't be as like dreaded as people feel they should be.
Yeah.
Sleep regressions can last, 2 to 6 weeks. But I do find that if you have a really good routine and schedule in place already, if you're following age appropriate awake windows, schedules, daytime sleep, that they don't usually impact the nighttime sleep as much. And really just staying consistently offering to your child time to practice these skills inside and out of the crib. So one thing that can be helpful, like when your child's learning to walk or getting up in their crib and like walking across their crib, playing in there, make sure that they have time to play in their crib during the day too, so that they're practicing these skills. It's one thing to walk down the hall on carpet or hardwood floor, but it's a whole other like fun and exciting thing for a child to practice in their crib. So maybe you're in their room, playing like one-on-one time together, folding laundry, or you're on a work call or on your computer, whatever. Just spending some time in their room in that sleep environment during the day can be super helpful to get through those sleep regressions too.
Good to know.
I like all the flashbacks of knowledge. I didn't like call you as much for my second because she was such a different sleeper. She just loved it. I didn't have a single sleep regression with her, and it was
I feel like we talked like one time, and when we
yeah,
talked, she was already older. She was
yeah,
like 9 months maybe when we talked, and it was more probably well, I don't know, stop me if I'm wrong, more like just working on something really little, right? It wasn't anything big. And
Yeah.
that's really important too, is parents comparing their child to another child, right? Like
Right.
all these moms groups and parenting groups, or a story that they see on
Totally.
Instagram or Facebook or TikTok about like my baby's sleeping through the night, right? Don't compare your child to anyone else. Don't compare your child to another child that you have. Just compare them to themselves. Have they ever been a good sleeper? No. Were they once a good sleeper and now they're not? Okay, how do we get back there? Or how do we
Mhm.
create this baseline? That comparison game, as parents, is so hard. But especially with sleep, when you have two kids that are just totally different personalities and sleepers, you don't want to compare them.
So here's another kind of way we can talk about this. So what about, so there's usually like more than one person putting a baby or a child down for bed. It's obviously you and your spouse if you have one, or partner, and
Parents,
then there's
babysitters.
parents. Yeah, like I had a nanny, daycares. What do you do specifically if you know
Different people have different styles.
yeah, or maybe they're not adopting, or like when you're coaching and like somebody's not going with the game plan. Like, what do you do when you encounter like
Yeah.
struggles there?
Yeah, I think first of all, I think it's really important like for children to see and have different people put them to sleep, right? If you get in the rut of only mom does it or only dad does it, I have plenty of clients that reach out to me for that specific thing. Like a wife will be like, my husband is the only one that can put our child down, and now he's going on a work trip. I am terrified of bedtime, right? Like that can be really scary.
Yeah.
And just like, you get in your head about, oh gosh, this is what's going to happen. So making sure, if you're able to have your partner or grandparents or, walk through it with a nanny, babysitter, I think that's important to have other people help you with bedtime for that exact reason, but also for your child to get used to other people, right? Like it's important to see that everybody does things differently, and they're going to have that throughout their life. They're going to have different styles of teaching. They're going to have different kinds of bosses. They're going to have different kind of kids in their class that they're going to have to adapt to and be flexible with. So bedtime is totally one of those things. So, having a plan in place, having maybe even if you have a partner that's like not listening or not being helpful or not following the rules, like maybe it's having a little meeting with them and say, hey, like, let's write out what the plan is going to be so that we can follow it. And let's try to have bedtime, be by 7:30, right? Like talk about the plan ahead of time, not in the moment. Because in the moment there
Yeah.
be a lot more feelings and pushback and
Mhm.
resentment, I feel like, but talking about it ahead of time, maybe even walking through it together. So maybe one parent hasn't been doing it much or isn't doing it exactly how the other parent does. Like, how about a night or two of doing it together? Um, Same with like a grandparent or babysitter, like have them come over early one night to do it together so that it's not just like this random one off that somebody's doing it. And I think
Yeah.
the most important thing is timing, right? Like making sure that one person isn't doing bedtime at 7 o'clock and one person's not doing it at 8:30, right? Because then
Right.
you have a retired child who you're just going to have more pushback and struggle. So trying to keep things pretty consistent, but it doesn't have to be exactly the same every night with every person. And that's important to know too.
So related to that, uh, what if you don't have control? So like, this might be a
I
question.
know where this is going.
What if What if there were two households where the child, which is, it happens. I know I'm not the only one.
Yeah, it's common.
What what do you do then? Because I know that there's some co-parenting relationships where there's a lot of communication and you can still kind of plan a little bit. And then there's some parenting relationships where it's parallel, and it might switch back and forth, but like what do you do if like you just kind of don't have any control over what happens at that house and then you just have to like do like any tips or anything?
Yeah. I think importantly is that you have control at your house, right? You have
Yeah.
control when the kids are under your roof. So keeping that really consistent, making your kids feel really safe and secure, creating a really safe and happy sleep environment for them that they look forward to at your house, that they have some involvement with. If you're redecorating the room or something, for instance, like asking them, do you want these sheets or those sheets? Do you want this lovey or that lovey? Having them feel included in it, I think, can be helpful if, it's age appropriate, but just controlling their environment when they're with you. And I think if you know that they're not getting the sleep that they need at the other house, if they're coming home to you grumpy, overtired, you can always offer an earlier bedtime so that they can make up a little bit of sleep with you at your house. I know that's hard, especially when kids are going back and forth. Like, you want all that time with them then, right? So
Yeah.
we can feel like, oh gosh, I just want to be with you a little bit longer. Selfishly, I don't want to put you to bed yet, right? But even if you offer a bedtime a half an hour earlier, 15 minutes earlier, that just means more restorative sleep that they can get overnight with you, that they can wake up happier, and your time with them can be so much better. So always that earlier bedtime, I think, is really, really helpful.
That's interesting because I always grew up with the paradigm that like you can't like get sleep back. Like you couldn't like sleep for 4 hours and then sleep like 1 12 hour
Yeah,
because you
it's
can't.
true.
It's
It's
better to just like stay on the path. But you're
right.
saying like, or I don't know, or maybe it's just not that extreme. Maybe like an hour
Right.
or an
No,
hour.
you're right. Once sleep is lost, like, it's gone. You're not gonna like bring it back, right? Like, you can't like now sleep 17 hours and get that sleep back. But you can offer an earlier bedtime because you know that your child is already overtired,
Mm,
right? So if you push them the full amount of time that they're supposed to be awake, then they're just going to be more overtired, right? But you can offer that slightly earlier bedtime realistically, right? So that they're getting more sleep overnight and they're not waking up overtired again tomorrow because of that lack of sleep. So they wake
mm,
up more rested because they got extra overnight sleep. It also doesn't mean that now, you put them to bed a half an hour earlier, so they're going to start their day a half an hour earlier. So if you have an overtired tired child come back to you after being at their other parent's house and you push them too far and then they go to bed late that night, they're less likely to sleep really solid and have a good night's sleep and wake rested. So if you do offer that slightly earlier bedtime, they just
mm.
wake up happier, rested overnight.
Got it.
Do you have any, switching gears here again, because we're getting toward the end, but is there anything that you feel that like pregnant moms can do to help prepare for I mean, like, because you have the baby and you're preparing for birth. Everyone's preparing for birth. And then boom, you're in postpartum and you got to deal with all this stuff, breastfeeding, sleep, taking care of baby. Like, it's just, there's a lot. Is there anything that you feel they can do with regards to the sleep stuff before the baby comes, before things kind of get wild?
Yeah. I think one thing is not preparing too much for sleep, actually, because then you can get in that zone of expecting it to be a certain way and it's just not
Mhm.
going to be that way, right? And if you check off all the boxes and you read all the sleep books, I feel like you can kind of overdo it.
Mm,
I think
Ah.
I think the most important thing that I share with pregnant moms or, newly postpartum with newborns is to follow awake windows. I think during those first few months of life, following those awake windows is the easiest thing to do to help get your baby to sleep, to help avoid having an overtired tired baby. I don't know why I can't say overtired today. To
Maybe
help,
maybe you're
maybe I'm
overtired.
overtired. To help avoiding having that overtired baby is following those awake windows. And in the newborn stage, that's really short. That can be anywhere from 40 to 90 minutes of awake time for your baby before it's time to put them to sleep again. And a lot of people, like, you probably hear this, like, oh, just keep your baby awake all day long or keep them awake for long stretches of time so that they can sleep longer, or keep them awake for a longer period of time from their last nap until bedtime so that they'll really sleep. And that actually backfires, especially in the newborn stage. If your baby's overtired, they can be awake for hours at a time because they go into this sort of like fight or flight mode, right? Where they can't settle down no matter what you do. And you're having more of those witching hours because they're so exhausted. So, really focusing on those really short awake windows, I think is the most important thing you can do to create a healthy sleep foundation in those early months.
Do you want to describe to the listeners, if they don't know, like what a wake window is?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know this until my baby was like born, and my sister was like, well, like just really pay attention to their wake windows and sleep windows. She would always say wake to eat and play to sleep. Like she kept saying like that was like the vibe of the newborn. And like she was like
Yeah.
the most important one. She was like, pay attention to the wake window. And I was like, what the heck is a
What
wake
does that
window?
mean? Yeah, so the wake windows are from the time your baby wakes up until you need to put them down again and they're sleeping again for either their next nap or the night. So that's why I'm saying like they can be really short in those first days and weeks at home. Sometimes your baby's only awake for 40-45 minutes, and that could be enough time from they wake up for the day in the morning that you change their diaper, you offer them a feed, you're probably changing another diaper again, and then they're asleep again, right? Or you're wanting to offer sleep for them again. And in the newborn stage, that doesn't look like anything strict at all. You're not following a schedule. You're not following a predictable routine for the day. You're just following those awake windows and offering to help them to sleep, whether that's baby wearing, swaddling them and putting them down, holding them on the go, for a walk in the stroller, things like that, just helping to promote sleep for them.
And the wake windows, they get like longer and longer.
They get much longer. So like us, we have a great big awake window as adults. We're awake all day long until the late hours of the night. But for newborns, it's 40 to 90 minutes. And then as you hit the toddler stages, it's 4 to 5 to 6 hours of awake time before you offer a nap, and then bedtime. And then once your child ages out of that, then they're awake the full day for 12 hours. And even
When do
longer.
kids go out of that?
So the most common age is around 3 when your child is ready to drop nap. I push for naps as long as possible. My son still napped in kindergarten, actually. Could have been partly because he had sleep apnea, but also, he was a really, really good napper. And so anywhere from like 3 to 5 is pretty common age that your child is now developmentally able to stay awake that long period of time without needing a nap to kind of reset before they're ready for the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is our closing question to all of our guests, but if there's anything that, like, what advice would you give new moms, or is there anything that just in general, I don't want to like narrow you down here, but is there anything like in general that you want people to know that you didn't know, or just like just a nugget of wisdom?
I think I hit on it a little bit when I was talking about my son's sleep struggles. It took me over 5 years to accept help from people who were offering to help me as a mom.
Yeah.
And I look back and I just think, wow, those first few years would have been so much easier if I had just said, yeah, thank you, that would be great. When people were already offering help to me, and not everybody even gets help offered to them, right? Like they have to ask, and which I think is even harder. So accept the help when people offer it. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? I felt like my clothes had to be folded in a certain way correctly. I felt like my dishwasher had to be loaded correctly. I felt like
Yeah.
only I could change the diaper the right way, right? Which is so silly. Like I had to put the clothes away because they belong in a certain order. And just looking past that, none of that matters. Once I was able to accept help, I just feel like life got so much easier, and I didn't have to stress about all those little things. Like my mom was just here and she folded all of our laundry again. And I was telling my husband today as I was getting the office ready, I'm like, man, my mom folds the laundry and she does it every time she comes over. And I don't know what I did before she did this for me. Like something so little of somebody else folding your laundry that feels so huge to me now. And I think it's even harder when you have to ask for help, but I think that is more important to ask for that help when you need it than to try to just trudge through it on your own.
Psh, that's some solid advice.
Yeah. I'm definitely wishing that I did that more too, but you know, you live,
And
you learn.
you asked for help when you reached out to me, with your
That's true.
oldest. You reached out to me and you said, I don't know how to get better sleep. Help me. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that was huge.
Yeah. I mean, it is easier sometimes asking help from professionals. So,
True.
because you're like, okay, like you're gonna help me. But anyways, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're
Thank
so
you for your
welcome.
time. We love talking to you, and I'll probably be calling you soon.
You're probably not. You are a pro at sleep. You know what to do, but I am always here if you need it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Raising Mama podcast. Your presence means a lot, and we hope you found our discussion insightful.
To become a part of our community, follow us on Instagram at Raising Mama Podcast. Explore resources on the Raising Mama Village located at www.raisingmama.com.
You're never alone on this motherhood journey. We're here to support you every step of the way.